Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Rashmi Sinha from Indira Gandhi National Open University. Today we are going to talk on the module Introduction to Measurement and Assessment of Human Growth from the paper Human Growth and Development. Now what will be our learning objectives in this module? 1. To comprehend the stages of growth. 2. To understand about the measurement and assessment tools used to evaluate human growth. 3. Understand the different methods of identifying the different types of growth charts. And the fourth, to understand the necessity of studying growth and the plausible causes of abnormal growth. Growth is the progressive development of a living thing, especially the process by which the various parts and organs of the body reach to its point of complete physical maturity, starting from fertilization by multiplication of cells and intercellular components. It is a fundamental characteristic of all living organisms. Changes in size are outcome of three underlying cellular processes. A. An increase in cell number or hyperplasia. B. An increase in cell size or hypertrophy. And C. An increase in intercellular substances or accretion. Growth occupies a significant place in the study of individual diversity in form and function in man, for many of these are also arises through differential rates of growth of particular parts of the body relative to others. According to Watson and Lowry, growth means an increase in physical size of whole or any of its parts. It can be measured in terms of centimeters and kilograms or metabolic balance, that is, retention of hydrogen and calcium in body. Joan Comas defines growth as the objective manifestation of hypertrophy and hyperplasia of the organism, constituent tissues, and is determined by postnatal body size. It is influenced by the factors like ethnicity, climate, environment, nutrition, etc. The different stages or phases of growth are prenatal period, postnatal period, which includes the infancy, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and senescence. Growth measurement and assessment tools. The assessment and interpretation of growth studies requires standardized measurement procedures, trained personnel, the use of appropriate, regularly calibrated instruments, and the collection of reliable data. It is important to use the proper equipment and standardized techniques while taking any measurement. Equipment should be calibrated regularly while taking any measurement. Anthropometry. The word anthropometry, as you can see, is derived from Greek word anthropo, which means human, and Greek word metron, that means measure. Anthropometry has been extensively used for the measurement of growth, assessment of health and nutritional risk, especially in children. Growth measurements to assess external dimensions of bodies such as height, weight, and subcutaneous fat are done using anthropometric methods. The field of anthropometry encompasses a variety of human body measurements including body weight, stature, recumbent length, skin fold thicknesses, circumferences, that includes head, waist, limb lengths, and breadths. There are also indices and ratios which can be derived from these anthropometric measurements, such as body mass index, waist hip ratio, waist height ratio, appendicular central ratio, grand mean thickness, etc. These body measurements are primary indicators for monitoring growth, health, nutritional status, and provide information regarding future health potential. Understanding the body size is important at all stages and particularly at birth because its association to morbidity and mortality in early infancy and its possible relationships to some diseases in adulthood. The universal standardization of anthropometric measurements was started since the 19th century. Series of longitudinal growth studies has been conducted in America, Britain, and other countries. As much as 948 references were collected by research teams from growth studies in Belgium, Britain, France, Senegal, Switzerland, Uganda, and USA after meeting every 2 years to originally discuss their methods and ultimately their results. Finally, an international biological project during the period 1962 to 1972 brought together scientists all over the world under the umbrella of research in human biology. These gave rise to one of the standard texts in the human biological sciences known as IBP Handbook, which was revised and renamed as Practical Human Biology and forms the source for many scientists who want to employ standard techniques to measure growth. Besides the standard techniques, there are some important qualities delineated 68 years ago by Alice Adelka and still pertinent today, which are good eyesight for distance and color, freedom from halitosis and unpleasant odors, sympathy, perseverance, orderliness, thorough honesty, and carefulness. The researcher, while measuring and collecting data, should be careful of the sensibilities of his subjects, careful in techniques, careful in reading the scale of his subject, careful in recording, and capable of concentration on his work. So, we also realize that apart from the technique, the researchers should also be following certain norms. Now, how do we measure the body? We'll be needing some instruments. So, the instruments used for body measurements are stadiometer or anthropometer or infantometer. It is used to measure the length and breadth measurements. Skinfold measurements is used to measure the skinfold thicknesses. Flexible steel tape, you all must have seen, is used to measure the body circumferences, and weighing scale, well, everybody is aware about it, is used to measure the body weight. Let us learn about the various measurements and assessment tools that are used to measure growth. Let's start with weight. During infancy, digital weighing scale is recommended, but a beam scale can also be used. The pan of the scale must be at least 100 centimeters long. A cloth is placed on the pan and the scale is calibrated across the range of expected weights using objects known as weights. The digital weighing scale for infants is used for children from 0 to 24 months. All scales should be calibrated whenever they are moved. The weight of an infant is obtained from the difference of the weight of the caregiver holding in the infant and the caregiver without the infant. A subject who is able to stand without support is weighed using digital scale or a beam scale with movable weights. The subject is weighed with light clothing and without any accessories. Care should be taken not to weigh subjects after meals or weighed at least 1 to 2 hours after meals. Here you can see the digital weighing scale which we were just talking about, and now you can also see the beam balance where we just mentioned that you have to put the weight on the right side. You can see there's a place where you put the weight when the person stands, and just see the spring balance. Here you of course stand barefoot, take your weight, see that there is no zero error and the weight is recorded. Let's see now how do we measure stature or height. We can measure it using stadiometer. Also, a stadiometer is used to measure height, which measures the vertical distance from the vertex to the floor. This apparatus consists of vertical board with an attached metric rule and a movable horizontal headboard which is adjustable. The latter can be brought into contact with the most superior point on the head. The subject is barefoot or wears thin socks and minimal clothing so that the body positioning can be checked. The subject stands on a flat surface in front of the vertical board with his or her weight distributed on both feet and the hands hanging freely with the palms facing inwards. Stature instead of length is measured after 2 years who are able to stand. Anthropometer. Another instrument used for measuring height or stature as well as transfer breadth of body is anthropometer. It consists of 4 segments which when joined together form a rigid rod of 200 centimeters long. There is a fixed sleeve on the top of the rod and also a movable sleeve with an adjustable graduated crossbars which registers the height of the measurements. The subject should be made to stand on horizontal platform with his or her heels together and head oriented at FH plane, which is Frankfurt horizontal plane, also known as FH plane as I just mentioned, or eye ear plane. How do we measure head circumference? A flexible steel tape is used to measure the head circumference and other girth measurements of body. It is graduated in centimeters. During early infancy, the head circumference is measured with the infant seated on the lap of the mother or caretaker. However, at older ages, it is measured with the subjects in the standard standing position. Hair clips, bands, and any other accessories on the hair are removed before the measurements are taken. Mid-upper arm circumference. It is also an important measurement. The mid-upper arm circumference is measured midway between the lateral tip of the acromial process of the scapula and the most proximal point on the olecranon process of the ulna. A flexible steel tape is used to measure the mid-upper arm circumference. Now let us learn about the skin folds. Skin fold thickness are measure of double of the skin and subcutaneous adipose tissue at specific size. Skin fold thicknesses are measured with the help of skin fold caliper. It is recorded in millimeters. Skin fold thickness can be measured at different sites, namely subscapular skin fold, suprailiac skin fold, abdominal skin fold, calf medial skin fold, calf posterior skin fold, biceps skin fold, triceps skin fold, thigh skin fold, etc. It all depends what purpose you would need the skin fold. The grand mean thickness, that is the GMT, can be derived from the sum of the skin fold measurements divided by the number of the skin fold sites. What are the measurements that are generally used for measuring growth studies? Let's have a look at them. The general pattern of postnatal growth is quite similar from one individual to another, but there is considerable individual variability in size attained and rate of growth at different ages with respect to both to the body as a whole and to specific parts. Both the whole body and its parts, therefore, must be measured, and the study of growth is identical to a large extent with measurements. Breadth or width measurements are ordinarily taken across specific bone landmarks and therefore provide an indication of the robustness or sturdiness of the skeleton. The commonly used skeletal breadths are biacromial breadth, bicondylar breadth. Limb circumferences are occasionally used as indicators of relative muscularity. Skin fold thicknesses are indicators of subcutaneous fat, the portion of the body fat located beneath the skin. Skin folds can be measured at any number of body sides. Most often, they are measured on the extremities and on the trunk to provide information on the distribution of subcutaneous fat in different areas of the body. The most commonly used skin fold thicknesses are the triceps skin fold, the subscapular skin fold, medial calf skin fold, suprailiac skin fold, etc. Some measurements are used during particular phase of growth. Hair circumference, perhaps the most important, is taken on infants and children to monitor the physical development with age. Besides the body measurements, the maturity of a child can be assessed at a single examination using sexual, skeletal, or dental criteria. Accurate assessments of maturity are important because misclassification of maturity levels can cause large errors in interpretation of growth data. Sexual maturity. Now let's see how do we measure it. Sexual maturity. Let's see how sexual maturity can be assessed. It can be assessed from the development of pubic hair in each sex, the genitalia in males, and the breast in female. Sexual maturity can be evaluated from nude photographs, but this involves even more invasion of privacy and the possibility of misuse. Photographs allow the review of doubtful data, but it is difficult to recognize from photographs the first stage of pubic hair, the final stage of breast maturation, and thinning of the scrotum. A physician usually assesses sexual maturity by direct inspection, and it can also be done by self-assessment. Eruption of teeth. Another way to measure growth is eruption of teeth, but this is not very reliable as it varies from child to child. All the same, let us briefly discuss eruption too as an indicator of measuring growth. There are two sets of teeth in human life, that is, the milk teeth and the permanent teeth. The different types of teeth are incisors, canine, premolar, and molar, which vary in size, shape, and their location in the jaws. These differences facilitate teeth to function together to help in chewing, speaking, and smiling. They also give the face to have its shape and form. You can see from the figure it represents the development of tooth in human. From infancy to childhood, people generally have 20 milk teeth which often erupt around 6 months of age. The milk or the baby teeth are then shed at various times during middle childhood. By the age of 21 years, all 32 of permanent teeth have usually erupted. The knowledge of eruption of teeth is one of the dimensions which envisage the growth and development of human. Inter-observer differences. Inter-observer differences are the differences between interpretations or observations of two or more individuals of the same measurement. It is one of the causes of anthropometric measurement error. The most commonly used measure of anthropometric measurement error is imprecision, which is largely due to observer error. Imprecision is the variability of repeated measurement and is due to intra and inter-observer measurement differences. The greater the variability between repeated measurements of the same subjects by one or two or more observers, the greater the imprecision, and the lower precision. Hence, the instruments, tools should be correctly positioned at the respective sites by observer to avoid the inter or intra-observer differences to the minimum. Now, from this table, you can understand what we were trying to learn. The another thing which we just talked of was the way to take correct measurement, and let us see, this figure tells you about how to take the skin fold measurements correctly. Here you can see from the figure how the skin fold is measured. What is skin fold? Skin fold is the double thickness of skin and the underlying fat, right? Now you can see how the position of the caliper should be there and what should be picked up to measure the skin fold thickness. In the correct positioning of the caliper, it should be perpendicular to the skin fold and across the two thickness of the skin and underlying fat. Clinical growth assessment. There are no standard methods to measure children suffering from clinical conditions such as cerebral palsy, obesity, etc. However, standard methods are applied if the child can stand. If not, then recumbent and anthropometrics are recommended. Special equipment such as bed or wheelchair scales are used for measuring weight of handicapped children. Recumbent knee height with known errors is the best method for estimating stature of handicapped children. For measuring the knee height, both the knee and the ankle are positioned at 19 degrees. Fixed blade of the sliding caliper is placed under the heel of the leg below the lateral malleolus of the fibula, and the movable blade is moved to the anterior surface of thigh above the condyles of the femur. Now, how do we assess the body composition? Direct and indirect methods are employed in assessing a child's body composition. Direct method includes neutron activation, computed tomography, and magnetic resonance imaging, while indirect methods are measure of body weight and length, skin folds or circumferences in the mathematical models, and bioelectrical impedance. Density of fat varies little at any age, but density of fat-free mass, that is we denoted by FFM, varies depending on its hydration and the proportion of the muscle and bone according to age, gender, race and level of maturation. Such inner individual differences increases errors in estimating body composition in children. However, multi-compartment model is used for improving the accuracy of the assessment. The unavailability of reference data of children is one of the limitations of the utility of assessing body composition in children. Reference data for adolescents are available. Prediction equations for total body water and fat-free mass have been developed and are used for adolescents from the ages 12 to 19 years. What are the various methods of studying growth? There are different methods of studying human growth. Some of the important ones are cross-sectional method, number 2, longitudinal method, 3, mixed longitudinal method, and the 4th, extended longitudinal method. What is cross-sectional method? In this method, the study is completed by observing and measuring different individuals at different stages of growth. Every individual is measured once only, and therefore all the children at the age of 6 are different from those at the age of 5. Cross-sectional method is adequate for studying distribution of various measurements in different individuals at different ages and for constructing standard growth attained. Longitudinal method. It is the method of studying growth by observing and measuring the same individual for a long period during his or her growth. In a longitudinal study, each child is measured at each age, and therefore all the children at the age of 8 are the same as those that were measured at the age of 7. A longitudinal study may extend over a number of years. Longitudinal studies may be short-term, covering a couple of years, and a full birth to maturity study in which children may be examined once in a year, twice in a year, or more than 2 times every year from birth till 20 years. In this approach, measurements are repeatedly done on the same individual or group of individuals. Longitudinal method is the best method to study the growth of any individual child or population. However, it is very necessary that the measurement taken must be correct and accurate. Longitudinal data are preferred for estimating mean velocities of growth. In estimating the variability of the velocity from one year to another, longitudinal data are extremely necessary. Mixed longitudinal method. Mixed longitudinal is used when it is not possible to measure exactly the same group of children every year for a long period. In this method, some children may inevitably leave the study, and others, if that is desired, may join it. One particular type of mixed study is that in which a number of children of relatively short-term longitudinal groups are overlapped. Thus, one might have groups of the age 0 to 6, 5 to 11, 10 to 16 years, and 15 to 20 years to cover the whole range. Now, what is extended longitudinal method? In an extended longitudinal study, a whole series of measurements is available for each child. If these measurements are plotted against chronological age, a curve growth is obtained. The slope of this distance traveled curve gives a picture of successive increment of or growth velocities which may be based on weight, length and head circumference. The growth velocity curve or curve of first divergence is obtained by plotting the increment against age. Growth charts. This is also one of the ways of evaluating growth. Children's growth is an important marker of health and development. Both infant body size during the early years of life and infant growth velocity have been shown to be associated with risk of overweight and obesity in childhood and adulthood. Growth assessment, the single measurement that defines the health and nutritional status of children because disturbances in health and nutrition almost always affect growth. Growth assessment involving the measurement of weight, length and height, followed by accurate plotting. A growth chart is quick, non-invasive and provides valuable information about the general health and well-being of the child. At times, it can be perceived by some health professionals as a low priority as reflected by absence of functional equipment in some settings for weighing and measuring children. At other times, parameters are recorded but not plotted onto growth charts, resulting in missed opportunities for the early detection of health conditions related to altered growth. This is a matter of concern due to the increasing rate of childhood obesity globally. Growth assessment can be reassuring for parents if their child is gaining weight steadily. However, monitoring too frequently or focusing on weight gain can lead to anxiety and unnecessary referral to secondary services. Growth charts are commonly used to educate parents about their children's growth and with health professionals and involve them in decisions on the management of altered growth patterns. Growth charts show the growth of a reference population and are used for the assessment of individuals and group of children. It shows progressive changes in height and weight of child with age. Serial measurements of child's growth plotted on a growth chart are used to identify and assess patterns of growth. Single or one-off measurement for individual children show only child size, not their growth. Growth charts are an essential tool in monitoring and assessment of children's growth. The interpretation of childhood growth percentile tracking is dependent on the growth charts used. Hence, it is important to be aware of the consequences of the methods used in the construction of growth charts when interpreting growth data in the clinical and epidemiological setting. Growth charts also serve as a primary tool for identification of unusual growth. Growth charts may be calculated as percentiles in most cases, and usually when the data are normally distributed, it is appropriate to present the mean and selected standard deviation levels. A Z or SD score may be positive or negative. A negative Z score indicates that it is below the mean SD and positive value indicates that it is above the mean. Head circumference growth pattern. The head circumference measurements are used for estimating the growth of the brain. At birth, the head circumference of the term baby averages 34 centimeters. The head circumference grows most rapidly in the first year, 2 centimeters monthly in the first 3 months, 3 centimeters during the next 3 months, and 3 centimeters in the last 6 months. This means that the average head circumference is 44 centimeters at 6 months and 47 centimeters at 12 months of age. Thus, the head circumference grows by 12 centimeters during the first year. Now here you can see from the figure that it shows the head circumference for age percentile in case of girls, and in this one you can see the same thing in that of boys, how with age the head circumference, there is a change in the head circumference. Mid upper arm circumference growth patterns. The measurements of mid-upper arm circumference, which is also referred to as MUAC, are used for determining whether the child is well-nourished or malnourished. The mid-upper arm circumference increases fairly rapidly to about 16 centimeters by the age of 1 year. In the period 1 to 5 years, the mid-upper arm circumference increases by only 1 centimeters. So, irrespective of age, the mid-upper arm circumference of well-nourished children ranges 16 to 17 centimeters in the period 1 to 5 years. Conversely, if the mid-upper arm circumference of a child of 1 to 5 years of age is less than 16 centimeter, the child has malnourished and corrective intervention should be carried out. Here you can see the arm circumference for the girls between the ages 3 to 5 years. The percentiles are shown in this. Here you can see the arm circumferences for boys, the percentile for it, the ages 3 to 5 years, how it varies. Length, height, growth pattern. An average term baby is 50 centimeters long. The length increases by 50% in the first year. In the second year, the average height growth is about 12 centimeters. The birth length doubles by 4 years of age. After the second year of age, the annual height growth averages 5 to 6 centimeters until the beginning of the adolescent growth spurt. Height growth stops at about the age of 18 years in girls and at the age of 20 years in boys. After plotting the child's height or length on a height chart, it can be determined whether the growth pattern is normal. A normal growth pattern is parallel to the printed percentile lines. There are also weight for height chart tables. Weight for height tables below the 5th percentile is a good indicator of acute undernutrition. Here you can see the girls' length for age percentile, which we were just talking about. You can see the girls' height for age percentile. Here we can see boys' height for age percentile from 2 to 18 years. Just see how it is showing the difference. Applications of growth charts. Now we talked about the growth charts. What are the applications? The standard method of developing a growth chart is to calculate the percentiles for each specified age range. Growth measurements are usually plotted on age and sex-specific growth charts and recorded in tables. A comparison between the plotted data and reference percentiles will illustrate the approximate levels of child or children relative to other children by matching age and sex. The accepted normal ranges are 3rd and 97th percentile in almost all countries, but the 5th and 95th percentile are used in the United States, and sometimes the limits are plus minus 2Z in some countries. The values lying outside these limits are most likely to be associated with pathological conditions than values nearer the means or medians. Why is growth assessment necessary? There must be some reason for it. Now let us understand why. The assessment of growth and development is very helpful in finding out the state of health and nutrition of a child. It is the best general index of health and nutritional status of an individual child and population. Continuous normal growth and development indicate a good state of health and nutrition of a child. Abnormal growth or growth failure is symptom of a disease. Hence, measurement of growth is an essential component of physical examination. Anthropometric references for the infants and young children are among the most used tools for assessing pediatric well-being. Growth assessment also serves as a form of screening for growth disorders or health concerns related to growth. It can be used as early detection of malnutrition to prevent ill health, thus provide adequate nourishment. Growth assessment can be a reliable indicator for prevention of adult overweight and obesity. Here you can see the possible causes of abnormal child growth. Now, if there is an increased weight percentile, what could be the cause? An energy imbalance could be because of the excessive food, inadequate physical activity. Increasing weight percentiles could also be because of endocrine disorders or genetic disorder. Similarly, we can see the possible causes for decreasing weight percentiles, increasing height percentiles, decreasing height percentiles, even for chronic diseases. Also, we can see by using the head circumferences also, both increasing and decreasing. Why is it so important to monitor the growth? 1. The health workers and parents should monitor the growth of children for the following reasons: for early detection of abnormal growth and development, to facilitate the early treatment or correction of any condition that may be causing abnormal growth and development. 3. To provide an opportunity for giving health education and advice for prevention and malnutrition. 4. Improve nutrition and overall health. Thank you.